You're listening to Side Hustle Pro, the podcast that teaches you to build and grow your side hustle from passion project to profitable business. And I'm your host, Nikayla Matthews-Okome. So let's get started. Hey friends, hey, welcome back to Side Hustle Pro Podcast. It's Nikayla here. If this is your first time listening or watching, thank you. And if you are an OG who's been listening for a while or watching for a while, thank you also. Today, I want to get into something that is very, very important to me. It's something that is key for you to master if you want to be a successful side hustler. And you could tell from the title, today I want to talk about mindset. I want to talk about how you can fool your mind into being confident when you don't feel like it, into being brave when you feel fear, and overall, how to be your biggest champion versus your biggest hater. So let's get right into it. First, I want to share something that I don't think I've ever shared with you guys. So when I was 12 years old, I participated in this program called the Math Science Institute. If you were around in New York City at that time, you might have heard of it. So basically, I went to junior high school in the Bronx. And in order to get into what's called the specialized high schools in New York City, it's kind of like a magnet school. You have to take a test to get into it. And anybody in the whole New York City, all the boroughs can take this test to go to. At the time, it was 3 schools. Now it's expanded. But imagine this, for all high schoolers in New York City, there are 3 schools that are championed as like these top schools in the city. And so that means in order to make it quote unquote fair, they have a test to get into. And at the time, the Math Science Institute was created to help students from underserved communities, like different public schools in the Bronx, to prepare for this test, because they knew that, like any other specialized test, you need a little bit of preparation. So I get into this program. I didn't want to go to this program, by the way. My sister encouraged my mom to send me. And long story short, I'm in this program, right? One of the first days of class, in our math class, I come into the room, we all sit down, and then the teacher starts writing these equations on the board. And I'm looking around like, okay, this is crazy. We're all about to learn something ridiculous. But I'm looking around and other kids are starting to like solve the problems in their notebooks. And I'm saying to myself, it's like really clicking at 12 years old for the first time that, hey, other kids are learning this kind of math and I have not learned it yet in my school. So that was the first time that I distinctly remember feeling imposter syndrome. Now, if you know me, you know I don't claim this syndrome. I feel like it's a feeling. It's not a syndrome. Like I'm not diagnosed and stuck with it for life. However, feelings of being an imposter are real. And that is my earliest memory of that feeling. So I can remember in that moment shrinking back and not wanting anyone else to know that I didn't know and I'd never seen these kind of equations before, because I felt like I wasn't as smart as them in that moment. And the reason why I'm so passionate about mindset today is because I'm doing it for that 12-year-old Nikayla, because I want to tell her, girl, you are just as smart. The only reason they know this is because someone showed it to them before they showed it to you. They've had months of practice with this and you haven't. So with anything in life, whenever I have the inclination to feel a moment of imposter syndrome, I have to pour back into myself and remind myself of all the reasons why it's okay to feel how I'm feeling right now, but here's the truth. And that is what I want to do for you today. So let's talk about why mindset is so key. So I'm going to break it down in a couple of ways. First, I'm going to talk about just breaking free from overthinking. Overthinking is one of the biggest mindset blocks. For me, it is when you start fantasizing, okay, about all the things that are going to go wrong or that are not in place, that are going to hold you back, or you start making up scenarios of things people are going to say in their head and all this other stuff. And I want you to treat this the way you treat all fantasies in life. They're not real. They're not real. So stop giving weight to these fantasies that you make up in your head that allow you to not go after or do your side hustle. So let me share some of the biggest fantasies, aka overthinking, that I suffered from and I hear many of you suffer from as well. Number one is my boss is going to find out. I'm going to get fired. My coworkers are going to think I'm crazy or I'm full of myself. My coworkers are going to snitch on me. My old high school classmates are going to be like, who does she think she is? Or people are going to think this is weird. You see what I'm saying? Like, this is the trail of thoughts that would come in my head. And the number one thing I want to say to that is, I know you're not letting people you knew 10, 15 years ago stop you from going after your dreams. I know you're not letting make believe thoughts of what they're going to think stop you from getting this bag. I know you're not worried about the opinions of people who you don't even speak to. How did that feel when you really thought about that? Like, whenever I think about what I'm about to do and I start overthinking it, whose voice do you have in your head? Is it your voice or is it an old friend's voice? Is it even your mom's voice, your colleague's voice? Whose voice is it? And then I want you to speak to that voice and say, but your opinion doesn't matter. Like, you don't get what I'm trying to do. Overthinking is one of the biggest mindset blockers. It keeps us stuck in analysis paralysis, constantly second guessing ourselves. You might think, what if it's not good enough? Or what if no one cares? But here's the truth. Everything you want is on the other side of that overthinking. So how do you stop yourself from overthinking? How do you master this area of mindset? First, when you have an idea, take 5 seconds, literally count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and act before your brain talks you out of it. I know some of you might be familiar with this. You subconsciously do this when you're about to buy something and you know you're not supposed to buy it. You know you said you were going to be on a savings challenge or a savings freeze, and then you just quickly go ahead and check out before your brain can catch up with you. It's the same thing with overthinking. So give yourself that countdown and act before you can overthink it. And then second, give yourself permission to do things messy. All right. Set a timer for 10 minutes, brainstorm, work on something, and then put it together to start releasing it. We talked about this already with Done is Better Than Perfect and how I literally launched with the first iteration of my sales landing page and tweaked every single day of my sales promo week. So you can do the same. Continue to update and tweak things because progress is always going to beat that perfection. And progress makes you relatable. Progress makes people see themselves in you and say, well, if she can do that, I can do that too. I want to tell y'all another story about imposter syndrome, okay? So when I was getting my MBA from the University of Michigan, I interned between my first and second years at Google. I went out to Mountain View. I was working in ad sales, and I remember being on the team, and the way it was structured, there were, I forget all the titles now, which is even better. So to protect the innocent, but here's what I observed on the team where I interned. So there were people who did the actual calculations, the analytics, right? They crunched the numbers, they did all the data. And then there were the people who presented that data. So when we had client meetings to sell our services, we would fly out to different cities, and I was an intern. So shout out to them. They flew me out as well and I got to experience it. And the people who crunched the numbers, okay, the brains on this team, are you with me? They did not fly out. They did not have FaceTime in front of the client. The people who were hired to sell had FaceTime in front of the client. And I left there with a very important takeaway. Can you guess what that is? The most important thing in life is for you to have confidence and for you to be able to speak to people. That is what is important in life. I'm like, I can present a Google slide as well. Okay, I can go and present a deck that somebody else created as well. Now, this is not to knock anyone else's skills or whatever. That is not the point of this, okay? Stay with me. The point of this is I spent that entire internship filled with so much imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not smart enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. And then when I really looked at what was happening, I realized that you are overthinking this. You are supremely qualified. You can crunch numbers and you can talk to people and you can do all of these things. And the only thing that's different between you and anyone else is the time that you've had to practice and prepare. If you spent months and years practicing and developing your presentation, your speaking, your communication as an ad salesperson, you would be shining in this role as well. So, number one, I saw that confidence is what drove people up the ladder at work. And two, I also saw that it is so important to not compare yourself to someone who is years ahead of you. Okay. Someone who didn't take off a gap for 2 years to go to grad school and just had those years to continue to perfect and grow and make progress on this skill. So when it's time to overthink, confront the voice in your head, confront the facts. All right. The facts are that all you need is time and all you need is more preparation. You're not less than, you're not less smart than, you're not less anything than. And the sooner you start, the sooner you can get better. Now, when it comes to mindset, I want to get into navigating the highs and the lows. Now, let's talk about the emotional roller coaster of side hustling. There will be highs, okay? Like getting your first sale or reaching a big milestone, but there will also be lows, like slow months or projects that just flop. Just a disaster, okay? But the key is to stay grounded. One way to do this is to celebrate small wins, okay? I keep a win note on my iPhone, and on this note, I keep screenshots. I keep just things that come to my mind, memories that I want to remember and reflect on and revisit when I'm having a low moment. So I write down every little thing I accomplish, from finishing an email sequence to getting positive feedback on a post, right? Another practice that helps for sure is gratitude. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say that I write in my gratitude journal every single day or that I have a designated gratitude journal right now. But what I do is when I catch myself spiraling mentally, I do take a moment to list out things that I'm grateful for. And it does help. It absolutely does. So you have to go back to the fundamentals, essentials that it is so easy to overlook, like the fact that you woke up this morning, the fact that you had something to eat. These are not things to be taken for granted. Not everyone has these things. So in that way, when I go back to just how fortunate I am, I'm able to just ground myself. And I'm not saying you're going to go from having the lowest day ever to all of a sudden, be 180 in the best mood. However, it will ground you to a place where you can think about, okay, what action can I take? Or, you know what, maybe today I just rest and give myself grace rather than continue to go into this negative spiral loop. And something that I didn't write down, but that is so helpful is, if you are having a low moment in your business, life, what have you, and you need to get your mindset together, stop scrolling. Stop scrolling. Like, it doesn't matter if you think, oh, I'm not following anyone negative or whatever. You'd be surprised at how little things trigger you. Like, you could be having a great day, then you'll see someone else doing something and you're like, oh yeah, I do need to do that. Oh man, yet another thing I'm dropping the ball on. All of that builds up and adds to a negative mindset. So if you're having a rough day, just stop scrolling. Just find something else to do. Listen to an audiobook, listen to a meditation, listen to music, anything, but stop the scrolling, because that does inject more negativity into your mind. Hey friends, so I have good news. The Master Instagram Challenge is coming back. We are kicking off next on Monday, February 3rd. Head over to sidehustlepro.co/Instagram to register at the early bird rate. It's $97 now, but it will jump up to $197. So make sure to lock in that rate. This is your 5-day ticket to double your following and build your influence. Please don't let another year pass feeling stuck on how to make money on Instagram, when in just 5 days, you can learn learn how to get more followers, how to turn your followers into clients, and how to audit Instagram for juicy content ideas so you'll never feel stuck about what to post again. Plus, I'll teach you how to use the power of AI to create a seamless content creation and automation system. Everyone said this was their favorite part of the last challenge, so we are going to bring it back and even include some more tutorials for you. Inside of the Master Instagram Challenge, you'll get a kickoff session on day 1 to get the party started, daily bite-sized videos delivered straight to your inbox for accountability, plus my strategies to start growing your following on Instagram immediately, and the exact tools and templates I use to create and schedule my content. That's right, I give you step-by-step tutorials, y'all. And then we have a live Q&A with me on day 5, Friday, February 7th. Plus, of course, you'll have access to re-watch all the recordings and tutorials even after the challenge is over. So are you ready to master the gram? Then head over to sidehustlepro.co/Instagram to join and lock in the early bird rate right now. And don't forget the power of community. Try to identify an accountability buddy this year. As I talked about before in my Done is Better Than Perfect, I found an accountability buddy. It does not have to be this big mastermind or even a mastermind of 3 to 4 people. It can just be you and one other person. Check in with each other. I was able to check in as I was launching the Gram, now called Master Instagram Challenge, and check in when I was having a low moment to get some encouragement or just some affirmation and reminder that, hey, you know what, why don't you take a break? Why don't you take a nap? There was a day when I was really low in sleep, and I am usually of the let me just push through because I only have a few hours before the kids come home mindset. But that day, my accountability buddy said, why don't you take a nap? And I did. And it was 1 hour. But I needed that because if not, I would have just spent it really like wound up tight, just thinking of everything that was going wrong. So you really need that person sometimes, well, all the time, just to be supportive, to bounce ideas off of, and to be reminded that, hey, this path, it has highs and lows. I'm not going crazy. It has highs and lows, and I need to give myself grace. And another thing about having an accountability buddy is when I feel stuck, we're able to brainstorm solutions together. So when I felt stuck about the fact that I really wanted Apple Pay on the sales page, we brainstormed some solutions. I tested it out. And also I was able to see, you know what, it's not the end of the world if things that are automated are no longer automated right now while I figure this out, and I have to do some things manually because it's worth it to be able to have, for me, Apple Pay on this page so that people don't have to go look for their card. So now let's wrap up with some practical tools you can use for the mindset hacks that we discussed. So we talked about overthinking. We talked about navigating the highs and lows. So now let's talk about building mental resilience. Building resilience starts with how you talk to yourself. I can't emphasize that enough. So instead of saying, I'm not good enough, try, I'm learning and growing. Instead of saying, this will never work, try, this is part of the process. And when you fail, and you will fail, reframe it. Every failure is indeed a lesson. Some of these things might sound cheesy to y'all. I know you're like, why is Nikayla doing this? But it's because it's true, okay? I would not steer you wrong. You have got to start to talk to yourself like this. If you think about all the guests that you've heard on Side Hustle Pro, so many of them faced setbacks before they found success. And so many of them still do. One that comes to mind is Denise Woodard. I recently rewound her episode like in fall 2024. She's the creator, founder of Partake Foods, and she talks openly about, you might see all this outward success. You know, she has funding from Jay-Z, Rihanna. She's in airports everywhere, planes. She's on airplanes these days, her Partake cookies. However, the funding that is required to do the level of scaling they're doing, it still gets hard out there. And as she was gearing up to get investment, she reached a really hard point where she sold her engagement and wedding ring. They cashed out all of their 401ks. They were literally down to no savings, nothing. But that's how much they believed in their business. I'm not telling you to do that, but I'm telling you that even sometimes when you're looking at people who you think are successful, you do not know the setbacks that they're overcoming to get to where they are right now, to get to what looks like outward success. So now you've got investment. Great. Now they're making money back. They're working to rebuild up their savings and their investments. And so what can look like outward success has so much of a story behind it. So it's so important for you to know that mental resilience, telling yourself this is part of the process, is really, really helpful. With anything, if there's one takeaway I want you to get from this episode, it's that it's really not about what happens to you. Similar situations happen to many of the guests on the show. Similar situations happen to me. It is about how you're going to choose to frame it in your mind and then attack it. That doesn't mean that you can do this all on day one or in the instant you find out some news or in the instant you're faced with a new challenge in your business. It can take weeks, months, maybe even years to figure out something to get back to a good place. However, if you have decided that you are going to go for this path of side hustling, then that already means, or it should already mean after listening to this episode, that you have decided to speak life over yourself, to remind yourself that you are resilient, that every problem has a solution, that you will push through, and that you're going to figure it out. You're going to make something shake, like I like to say. You're going to figure this out. It might take you some time, but this is part of the process. So I hope you're writing down all of this and making each of them your own little affirmation card so that those are the things you start to speak to yourself, okay? So now let's get into some more practical mindset hacks. Number one, you can set micro goals for big wins. So that means breaking your goals into much, much tinier actionable steps. Y'all know I love breaking things down into actionable steps because I get overwhelmed easily. It can feel daunting when I have a big project looming. It can feel daunting when I have episodes to fill, right? I say I'm going to release an episode every week, and sometimes I just get into kind of a writer's block. So what you have to do is break it down like, okay, my next step is to outline the episode. Then after that, my next step is to go and do XYZ for the episode. You know what I mean? Like, break your goals into such tiny steps that it is easy to accomplish it. So for example, instead of saying launch a business, why don't you say post one story about my side hustle? Doesn't that sound much better? Think about it. What is looming over your head today as you're listening or watching this show? What is looming over your head, and how can you divvy that up so that you actually get it done? Go ahead and do that. Number two, visualization. That is a huge help when it comes to mindset. So actually take time throughout your day to close your eyes and imagine your future self thriving in your side hustle. Think about, what is she doing? How did she get there? What were some of the things that she had to overcome? What did she tell herself? And you have to start acting like that person. Like, I'm the person that is going to see no's and I'm not going to stop at a no. I'm the person that is going to make no's into yes. I'm the person that is going to feel discouraged, but then get back up the next day and try again. That is how you have to start moving like that future self, because guaranteed, if you have a goal, a side hustle that you want to launch, and a future self that works for yourself, then that future self has to act in a certain way. And as soon as you can identify those habits and start to visualize those habits, it's the sooner that you can start to adopt some of those habits. And just like with step one, micro goals, you're going to take micro steps into those habits. It's not going to happen overnight, as I know you know, but just want to remind you that After you visualize it, don't try to attack all of those goals at once. Don't try to attack all of the steps and habits at once, but start to visualize it and understand what it's going to take. So picture what you're doing, how it feels, and how you are helping yourself become that person each and every day. And then the third and last mindset hack that I want you to practice is writing down the limiting beliefs that are holding you back. And then I want you to write down the counter to that limiting belief. So you can reframe it with evidence that supports your growth. What are your limiting beliefs? What are the things that you say to yourself? In order to stop saying it mentally, you actually need to confront it and see it visually, write it down, and start to confront those thoughts. I'll share that I think that we all have a little miniature hater on our shoulder that as soon as we're getting ready to do something, wants to whisper all the reasons why we're not qualified or why we can't do it. And I have shared it before and I'll share it again. You have to talk back to that hater. The hater might say, oh, you're getting ready to do this. Well, you've never done that before. You don't have a certificate in this. You need to make sure you go and get a certificate in this before anyone will take you seriously. And then I have to tell that hater, hey, people already take me seriously. I do this in XYZ, and these are transferable skills that I'm going to now apply in this way. And hey, guess what? It doesn't have to look the way you think it does. It can look differently for everyone. So just because you've only known someone who's taken this path to be someone who has XYZ certificate, it does not mean that's the only way to take this path. So those are some things that I hope will stick with you because it's truly what is helping me right now. And I am so committed to pouring out to y'all what is helping me in this season, in this journey of life. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode. Mindset isn't just important, it is everything. And it's not just a one-time fix, it is a daily practice. It's like a vitamin. It's something you need every single day to keep it strong. So your challenge this week is to write down one limiting belief and reframe it, and then email me because I'd love to hear from you. Email me hi@sidehustlepro.co with how you reframed a limiting belief. I can't wait to hear from you guys and to make these episodes a bit more interactive. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to comment that limiting belief and how you're going to reframe it. And if you are ready to take your side hustle to the next level and start building out your personal brand on Instagram, make sure you're registered for the next Master Instagram Challenge. That's right. It's now Master Instagram, and you can register over at sidehustlepro.co/Instagram. We kick off on February 3rd. Make sure to join now to get the early bird price of $97 because it will go up to $197. And I will see you guys next week. Hey guys, thanks for listening to Side Hustle Pro. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other side hustlers just like you to find the show. And if you want to hear more from me, you can follow me on Instagram at Side Hustle Pro. Plus, sign up for my 6-bullet Saturday newsletter at sidehustlepro.co/newsletter. When you sign up, you will receive weekly nuggets from me, including what I'm up to, personal lessons, and my business tip of the week. Again, that's sidehustlepro.co/newsletter to sign up. Talk to you soon.